welcome to Conscious Curiosities, where we unlock the wisdom of the universe which lies within us. I'm Maria Luz, your host, an astrologer, certified hypnotist, and psychic medium. Before we get started, I have an announcement. You may be used to hearing the audio only for my weekly YouTube at this time slot. However, I am just more comfortable with doing a longer, in-depth episode as opposed to one of each, the longer in-depth and then the shorter forecast. I tend to find the deeper and longer term meanings in those weekly forecasts anyway. I will chalk it up to my Scorpio rising. So I think you will be happy and be served by just the single episode a week. And if you do like the video, I will probably do a video occasionally, maybe when there's something big happening or, a big lunation. And honestly, looking at the astrology, it seems as though there will be plenty of those opportunities. So if you are a YouTube user, you will continue to see these. They will just be the audio, and nothing will change for you audio listeners. Okay, so I'm here with the final, at least for now, the final Astro energy report, and this is for September 12th. And the energy drivers for this week are that Mars in Cancer squares the lunar nodes. That's exact on September 15th. Venus trines Jupiter, which is exact on September 14th. And then, of course, we have this lunar eclipse happening in Pisces on September 17th. And then I also think that Neptune continues to be an energy driver. So we will get into all of those things. And there is this theme of spirituality that I discussed over, the last 2 weeks on this weekly Astro Energy Report, and it continues to be emphasized by the events in the sky. And I'm starting to think of Neptune sitting at the culmination of the zodiac as the prime mediator for this. But first, I do want to talk about Mars a little bit. Mars is not in its happy place in Cancer, and it's moving into this position where it's in a square with the lunar nodes. The north node in Aries, which Mars rules, and then Libra, where the south node is. And we have talked about what we've been asked to work on as a collective, or at least what I think we're being asked to work on while the nodes have been on this axis, and they've been there since July of 2023. And a lot comes down to really claiming one's authentic identity after maybe years or a lifetime of conditioning and masking for the purpose of forming a true connection with others and experiencing that from a place of self-love rather than insecurity. And I don't know about you, but that's just been a breeze, right? No, it hasn't. There's been a lot of pain and honestly a lot of relationships that I've had to let go because I wasn't coming from the right place. So maybe some of you can relate. And I want to talk about this Mars square, even though Mars moves pretty quickly. So we wouldn't necessarily always talk about Mars transits, but I saw that, Venus passed by and made a conjunction with the South Node last week or the week before. And when that happens, it's an opportunity, just having a conjunction to the South Node, it's an opportunity to release things. And so with Venus, it might be harmful relationship dynamics. And now Mars is highlighting the nodes just a couple days before the eclipse happens in Pisces. And then, of course, the following eclipse will be in Libra, Venus's sign. So, Mars is never one to strategize. And in Cancer, it protects what it loves by, being active, which is what Mars does, even if it doesn't feel like it has the advantage. Again, it doesn't need a strategy. However, it's super not advantaged in Cancer. And my sense is that, we need to look at maybe where we've been just blindly protective. That would be kind of that Mars in Cancer energy, either, of ourself or of the group that we're in, whether it's the family group or the friend group or the political party. And, that protective mechanism could look like a trauma response, maybe with fighting or, being defensive, or escapism, which would be kind of our modern form of flight, or fawning, just, to appease. And those things, they come out of unexamined conditioning. So again, it's tying back to the Aries Libra axis, along with some of those other themes that we've talked about with outer planets. And I'm not going to go in too much depth here. I feel like, honestly, I've already done that, and I wasn't supposed to, because this is the last brief report. But I'm not going to go into too much depth with the eclipse itself, because I think I will do a deep dive in a future podcast episode on the Virgo Pisces axis, given that the nodes are moving there. And I know that there are probably a lot of other good analyses on this eclipse. So, skipping over that a little bit, we have been inhabiting this Virgo Pisces axis while the sun has been there. But really, remember, Venus was there first. And so it's been, the last few weeks or month or so, and we've likely felt this pull to get back into doing mode. So things like getting back into a routine with school or work, or maybe on the flip side, we're realizing that, three-quarters of the year is gone, and maybe we forgot to actually do something about our intention of the year. So those things are, good starts to be thinking about routine and maybe getting back on track. But also there may be something we need to work on being. So rather than piling on more tasks, maybe there's something to be said about being. And why do I say that? Well, I see Neptune sitting at the end of Pisces, exactly between Uranus and Pluto, who are both in earth signs, and they are in a square aspect to one another. So, as you can imagine, Earth is maybe the most difficult of the elements to move. And Taurus, where Uranus is, and Capricorn, where Pluto is, can be especially stubborn energy. But there's Neptune in mutable and movable, mutable Pisces sign and movable water. And it's in this liminal space because it's the space between Pluto and Uranus. And it's in a sextile aspect to each of those, which is a helpful, kind of congenial aspect to those two planets. And just, those two planets represent transformation, a necessary transformation. One is slow and painful, that would be our friend Pluto, and the other is sudden and unexpected, which is Uranus. So I have to wonder why, given, how slow these three planets move, this particular formation can't occur more than every several hundred years or something like that. And so I think it has something to do with looking, at Neptune in that critical space, liminal space between, finding a form of spirituality, which is a Neptune concept that resonates with them emotionally because of being in the water sign. So yes, finding that form of spirituality, but then actually doing something with it to transform that which may seem immovable. That's where I think those three planets are pointing us. And so the world is more connected now than it ever has been, yet the governments are more entrenched in the status quo, and that's that Pluto in Capricorn, perhaps, while the natural environment is more precarious, and that, I think, is the Uranus in Taurus than ever, before. And so if we stay in our earthly way of thinking, we could just be in this overwhelmed, alone mode, or alternatively, we could be, again, looking at that connectedness of the world. We could be in our kind of echo chamber, because even though it's connected, there are these silos of communications. But either way, whether you're kind of hiding under your covers, overwhelmed, alone, or you're constantly, on the internet, in your communication silo, either way, it is ineffective and it's disconnected from the whole, which is the call from Neptune in Pisces. And so maybe the only way to solve these big, complicated problems, as well as tap into the opportunities that this connected technology and way of life can allow, is to consider the role of spirituality in all of this, and not religion, really, please, not religion, but individual spirituality that enables connection rather than forces it. And I really feel so fortunate to have experienced this. And it's not like a spiritual bypass where I just go to yoga or I go meditate and I use that to kind of numb out the world the way I used to use alcohol. And what's happened is, it requires really the opposite of numbing. You have to air out this pain. Like once you come out of that conditioning fog, there is pain. And then you have to find hope with other people who are doing the same work. It really requires us to trust in ourselves and, those other people that are doing that work with us while we do these scary things. And I have to say, again, without being in this kumbaya, blissed out Zen, I really have never felt so much love. And it just wasn't possible while I was in my 100% earthly, really goal-bound, affection-seeking mode, which are all, all the things that have been so easy for us to get stuck in. So this perhaps is where the really cool aspect that's happening this week may come into play, and that is the trine of Venus in Libra to Jupiter in Gemini. And those two benefic planets in these air signs are opening up for different ways of relating and communicating, of perceiving things really in an optimistic way of finding hope in difficult times. And that's where I will leave you to this kind of bridging episode. And next week, you will have a longer, in-depth episode coming out, just one on Wednesday. And I will either go into Pluto in Aquarius, which is coming, or, as I mentioned earlier, start talking about the axis of Virgo and Pisces, where the nodes will be, and the eclipses are starting to hover and occur around. If you like this, please share it. And you can always email me with feedback, info@marialuz.online. I will put a coupon code in the show notes, and you can look up my astrology, hypnosis, and psychic mediumship services, where I would love to see you at some point. All right. Thank you. I so appreciate you, and I wish you a wonderful day.